We are going to do handling a client from A to Z, sellers. Okay. Listing appointments, the process. Okay, first item of order is to find out exactly what type of home the property is. Okay, the key to this is asking the correct questions over the phone prior to your appointment. Okay, the questions to ask are: what style of home is it? How many rooms, bathrooms, and what are the types of rooms on the first floor, second floor, basement, etc. This is the only way that you can really find out. You can't just say, you know, hey, is it a 2-story and how many bedrooms, how many baths? Because everybody says different things, meaning they count the basement, they count this, they count. You need to know, that's why I was very specific in what I say here, what's on the first floor, what's on the second floor, and what's in the basement. Okay? It makes a big difference if these rooms are in the basement. Okay? It's a different kind of animal. And you just need to know where everything is situated. That's why you ask those questions. Okay? Then you ask what are some of the updates that have been done in the home in the past 10 years. Beyond 10 years, not as relevant. Okay, so 10 years is a good gauge, to ask. They could say, oh, we redid everything 15 years ago. Okay, that's fine. Okay, the 10 years is the things that you should mention in your listings and things like that, because that's pretty pertinent to what's going on, 10 years or less. And be specific with costs, if known, okay? Not that you're going to put all of that on the listing sheet, but for your own purposes, you should know everything there is to know about this house. It should be like it was your own, okay? There's nothing you shouldn't know about it, okay? And that is simply by questions, by asking the right questions. If you ask the right questions, you'll get good answers, okay? Are there any significant exterior features such as decks, porches, etc.? These are the things that you'll also ask. Has the property been listed before, and if yes, when? Now, you could already do this research. The moment I get any type of potential listing, I already do all that. Right? As long as I have the address, I pull up everything that's ever been on it. Okay? We have Realist.com at our disposal. We have the MLS that goes back 30, 40 years. It goes back forever. You can keep going. You can go back even further than the 7 or 8 that are on there. You go back previous. And then you also ask them, what market value do you think the property has? Okay? I always want to know, the reason that's asked is expectation. Not about that that you should not even care, but you're going to value it what you're going to value, okay? But you want to know that their expectations are realistic. If they're telling you, oh yeah, it's worth $400,000, and you come back and it's $375 tops, okay, and there's no way it could be more than that, you may be at a crossroad here that might be hard to list properly, and whatever, when you show them that the comparables indicate that the highest we could possibly get is $375, and they're set on $400, that's going to be a very difficult process, perhaps. And then the next, question to ask there is ask what is a convenient time to meet and view the property so that you can give a listing presentation on the property and then set up the appointment. So all of these things could be done prior to. You should be doing, I do a ton of research before getting there. I have a stack this high. I have a bit of a tree killer, by printing stuff, but I mean, it's important to me. I want to view it and have it, and I don't mind showing it to you. Could you show it on your screen? Yes, you can. You bring your laptop with and things like that. But I will show all the comparables I use that have sold in the past 12 months. I will pull up everything that's potentially listed, in this period of time, or pending, or anything like that, any of those possibilities. And I'm talking about right here, researching the subject property. Go into Realist, pull up the property, and find out all statistical data concerning the property and all mortgages attached to the property. That's in Realist.com. You can press it on the globe, or if you find an old listing on it, you just hit the PIN number. Okay, so the globe is basically putting up the PIN number. That's just right in your MLS. Okay, very easy way to find a property. You can always hit that little globe that's in your upper right-hand side. Hit it. It comes up with the Realist.com. You simply type in the address. Boom. this comes up. If you find the old listing on it, meaning that it was listed before, you simply pull up the old listing and then hit PIN number and you get the realist.com information the same way. Okay? Now, based on the data that you have collected from the client and realist, start pulling up comparables to the subject property. Okay? For your potential listing. Go into the MLS, pull all the solds within the past 12 months that are remotely similar to the subject property. Don't miss anything. Okay? Very important that you don't miss. You can look bad when you miss properties. If someone goes, well, what about that property on 1414 Mockingbird Lane? And for whatever reason, you didn't pull it up. Well, why? Why did you miss that? Okay. Now, if it were by owner or something like that, that would be one reason. Okay, because that's not going to pop up on normal search, obviously, because we're pulling up MLS data, which is by realtors. Okay, so that won't pull up. But other than that, you should be able to pull up all the information that they're providing you, because a lot of times people are pretty well, oh, the one across the street, sold last year at this time. Oh, Joe listed his, but I think it was canceled. People know. People are well informed these days of what's going on in their own neighborhood, and especially if they're considering selling their own property. They're pretty well apprised of what's going on. Okay? Go into the MLS, pull up all the pending, currently for sale properties, once again, remotely similar to the subject property. Okay? And then gather up each of the comparable listings, sales, pendings, and evaluate each to determine what the best asking price and ultimate final market value will be appropriate for the subject property. Okay? When doing this, I do a lot of these things, for you guys when you ask me to do that. But you can certainly do it yourself as well you should, and then use me as a checkup, to make certain that that the value, seems right. Okay. We just had a gentleman that did a listing, and we did it together. He did his own, I did mine. We put it on the market. It was on the northwest side, I believe, of the city, and he just sold it in like 2 days for $10,000 over list. Now that is the way you do real estate. Okay, in my opinion, you list properties for what they're going to sell for. Okay, and then you create a bidding war. I don't even think in this particular one he didn't have a bidding war. The guy just bid 10,000 over. There were multiple showings, and the client didn't want to leave it on. I said leave it on for another few more days. Who knows what will happen? Client was thrilled, ecstatic with everything. So, realtor did his job. Okay, realtor is, the client is thrilled with said realtor. That is your job. You did a fantastic thing. I want to make sure that that it's good for the entire marketplace, and by getting it out there, and it was out there for 3 or 4 days. It wasn't long, or whatever. It was negotiated. It negotiated literally 10,000 over list, and numerous showings that were set up later that they canceled as per the client. It was not as per the broker. The client said, "I'm good. This is great. Thank you. We're done." Okay. Remember, you're there to give advice, and if they say, hey, Mr. Seller, we might be able to get more money. What do you want to do? I'm sure that's what was stated, but the client was happy. Okay? And bottom line, that's all. That's your job. Your job is to advise and make sure that everything happens correctly. But if they're good with what the situation, just dictated and what happened, then you got your job. Okay? Preparing for the last actual listing presentation. Print out all the MLS, all pertinent data in presentation mode in color to actually present to the client on the day of the actual listing presentation. Bring with you a measuring device, as well as ruler, electronic measuring device, etc. This will be to measure each room, because when you put it into the MLS, it asks you what the room dimensions. And mind you, that is very, very important. Okay, to simply copy another person's listing in that regard, just remember you're copying somebody else's information that may or may not be correct. Do your own work, okay? Because then you know it's correct, okay? Because I have found if you read those, I've been doing this a long time as an appraiser as well as a broker. When I look at those rooms, sometimes I know what they are. I've been in these places multiple times. I know. And I've actually measured some of them when I get a listing and things like that. Because as an appraiser, we don't have to measure rooms. We measure full dimension of exterior. But as a broker, we measure rooms. And I've done it and had the old listing in front of me. And oh my God, I can only tell you that when a room says 18 by 12 and you measure and it's 15 by 10, how could that be? How could it be off 3 feet and 2 feet? You know what I mean? It only means one thing. They copied it from somewhere. Or they eyeballed it. Those are the other two options that you have. Clearly couldn't have measured it. Because if you measure it, you can't be off 2 or 3 feet. That's not possible. Okay?
Would be interested in the property.
Yeah. So, bring a camera, of course. Even if you're not taking your own pictures, it's not a bad thing for you to remember stuff by. So if you don't use your phone for that, fine. Don't use your phone to put photos in the MLS. But have a separate camera. I do my own photos, and I have a separate camera, not my phone that I use for that. So that you remember what you're looking at when you actually go to write up the listing in the MLS. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier, as they say, pictures as 1,000 words. Which is why always in the MLS, when people photos, that's what they look at. It's very important that you have good photos in there. It's also good for you to remember when you go back and you're putting, crown molding, in dining room. Did you remember that? I write all that stuff down. But if you've got photos, there it is. There's the crown molding. Chair rail all throughout. There's crown molding over here. These are the things that you might want to note on your listing sheet. Okay? To have a photo of it is great. Then you remember. Hardwood flooring. Oh, did it have hardwood in the kitchen? I don't remember. I remember it was in the dining room, living room, and family room. Well, I don't remember what was in the kitchen. But if you have a photo, there it is. Okay? Then you don't have to, one of the, I won't say it's the worst thing, but I don't like to have to call the client back to ask things, something that should have been your job. The first time you were out there, like, what's the flooring in the bathroom? You were just there, yesterday, and you didn't write that down. It shows a little bit of incompetence. Don't be afraid to get it right. So if you don't know something, do it. Don't make up something that's not true. Okay? Make sure your listings are accurate. But point being, try to be as detailed and get things right while you're there. And photos can really help, as well as jotting down, however you do it on your iPad or however you're jotting down information. Okay? Have a pad of paper and pen or an iPad and take down all the notes, as I just stated, while you're there. So you have 2 ways to look at it. You've got photos and you've got things that you jotted down. Okay? Now you know what it looks like, what's right. Have a listing agreement ready to sign for the client if you get the listing on the appointment. So, if you're doing it on your laptop or your iPad or anything like that, you can have it all right there within .loop, ready to get them to sign. If not, then they're more paper people, and even if they aren't paper people, if you feel you can get it, I'll print it out, I'll have it ready to go. I want to be ready to go one way or another, whether that be electronic or in person with a pen. Okay? If they're not ready and we're interviewing 2 or 3 more people, at least you should be trying. Okay? If you don't ask, you can't get it. Okay? By leaving there and not getting it, and you didn't even ask for the listing, then you didn't do your job. Okay? You were there, you had every opportunity to say, let's do this listing now, and you didn't. And then you waited, and then a week later, when they tell you back to call, they took somebody else's listing. And somebody else already took it, I should say. Always wear appropriate clothing to look professional. I don't think you need a suit and tie to look professional, unless you feel that client that's what's appropriate. But to me, what would be sort of appropriate is, one person in the audience here, when people are looking at, but I'd say both of you, look, that's professional enough, okay, in here to look, I wouldn't with the leather shoes unless it was a crappy day.
You don't like my hunter boots?
Yeah, no. But I would if it's muddy and crappy out, because you're going to be walking in the backyard taking photos. So then it's not inappropriate, But other than that, just look professional. Think about it. Don't wear jeans. Don't wear, just portray professionality. Okay, when you're doing that, because everything matters. Everything matters. Whether they're going to say it or not, because they're probably not. It's in their head. It's in their head. Okay. I try the best that I can. I also know that when I'm with like a friend, I tend to dress down. Even though I'm getting the listing, I'll tend to dress down only because I know I already know them, and I'm not there to impress, per se, because I hopefully now it's already happened. But if it's anyone that's just, from not friend, maybe an acquaintance, and above that, they're people I don't know, of course, we got to impress. Every little part matters. Okay, presentation, the listing presentation. Arrive 5 to 10 minutes prior, always, okay, be earlier. During this time, survey the immediate surrounding area, neighborhood, and walk around home looking for exterior features and issues, good or bad, with the home. So in other words, you already know the home, okay, before you walk in, meaning that the roof looks a little iffy on the back or on the garage. Windows, and some of the siding is popping up, somewhere. Some of the windows are not painted, if they're not vinyl windows or whatever. Things like that. You should note all these things because these are things that are going to come up in an inspection, and or at some point in this process, this will come up. So you best be prepared to talk about it now, okay? So that maybe it can get fixed. I'm doing a listing in Addison next week, and it's a divorce situation, so it's tough. Nobody wants to pay one way or the other for the situation. They both wanted to sell for a decent price, and I said to each one, well, this would be best if you painted this or did this, and they both say yes, but neither one wants to pay for it. So, but they're aware, okay? It is your job to make people aware of things, and whether or not they do it, you can control it, and also your job is to tell them why this would be a good thing, because it doesn't always mean selling for more money. It oftentimes means less time, okay? So effectively, especially about painting little things that aren't so little. Your front door, the expectation of a front door not being, all blown up and not looking good, whatever, which is a little bit of the case of this Addison property. They always use the side door, but the front door doesn't look that great. Okay, now I know how to use the side door. Okay, so the bottom line is it would be nice if they spruced it up and did a few things to it. Take exterior photos with your camera, phone or whatever, front, rear, and any notable exterior features, good or bad. Once again, so let's say this house, has a shed that comes with it. It has, there's a lot of things, like a back porch that has, some kind of covering over the top, canopy or something like that. There's all sorts of things, and just take it so you can describe it, and or if you're using your own camera for photos, that you have it. At that time, after that, knock on the door, introduce yourself as so-and-so from Kale Realty, and I'm here to view the home and give you a listing presentation. Always, don't just assume, especially, that they know who you are, you have your own time and everything like that. I'm Rick Williams from Kale Realty, I'm here to do the listing. Tell them what you're doing, okay? There are situations that, you have to be careful, so do that. Have a brief conversation with the homeowner, and then go over all of the nuances of the home, and then proceed to go through the home, room by room, taking photos to remember what you are viewing, okay? So the talk, when I say talk about it with them, asking all those things once again, even though, you said you did the kitchen back in, 2008, what did that entail? Was that, you're looking at, say, you're sitting right there, that was the same, remember, you asked all these questions before, but now you're viewing it, Okay, so, oh, was that the quartz countertop, the this, the that, and point out that, oh no, that was here before. All we did was paint the cabinets and we put new knobs in. Now you're finding out the details, okay, of what was really done. Once again, to be able to answer the questions when somebody calls you on this listing, and you know, okay? And none of it is hard, it's just knowing, the brass tack facts on all these things, and asking the right questions. Because the general questions that people ask are, what's updated, the bathrooms, your roof, water heater, so they want to know age of these things. These are just general things that you should know the answer, okay? Because if you don't, I got to call a homeowner again. You should know this from the day the listing was, because they're all going to come up. Every one of these questions, they're all basic, normal questions that anybody you would ask. Put yourself, I always do this, put yourself as the buyer. What would you want to know? Go from there, okay? Most people are fairly normal, so take a normal person, and what would you want to know about a house? Those are the things that you should have down in front of you, or your file, or your whatever your database is, all the notes, and it might even be right in the listing itself when you put it in the MLS. Many other things. Okay. All right. Okay. Take great notes to remember. Take great notes to remember the property, and take down all items like blinds in each room. Remember, but some of the questions that are on there in the MLS are there blinds, curtains, whatever it is. Make sure you put all that. Little things like that. I am a real stickler on filling out your MRED MLS listing properly. Those of you that have taken, going upstairs with me and, let's do your first listing, you know that I really much every single blank should be filled out or addressed. Every one of them, okay? There should be something in there, okay? If it doesn't apply at all, then no. But if it's applicable in any way, shape, or form, from the school to the this, every little thing should be in there, okay? Room dimensions, floors, blinds. So you appliances that stay with the property, very important. Make sure that your question to them is what appliances are staying, okay? Those are the only ones that you put in the MLS as going. If they're keeping the refrigerator, if they're keeping the oven, don't put those in the MLS, because if you do, guess who's buying a new one? Yeah, you. Okay? So make sure that, your listing agreement confirms with what you put on the MLS. Yes, your contract between you and the seller is great, but if you put it on the MLS, remember the MLS, that's a contract. That's a contractual item. And when they see that, now, also don't be fooled when the buyer, from the buying agent, I put everything anywhere. I don't really care what's on the listing sheet. I put every appliance that's in there, that normally would be part of the transaction, even if it didn't say it. So that is your job as the listing agent when you're going to jumping ahead a little bit. Make sure that those things, if they're in there, you take them out. No, the listing says we're not including the oven. The listing says we're not including the refrigerator. So make sure that that doesn't sneak in there, and all of a sudden you're buying one, talking to someone who's in there. Okay? So, flooring in each room and identifying features in each room. Okay? Make sure, I talked about crown, chair molding, recessed lighting. I write all these things down. Can lighting, recessed lighting in living room, dining room, kitchen. Very brief statement. It could be you got a lot of, you've got a lot of space to write things, and that's a good thing to write. People want to know about that. Okay. Next, you talk of commissions and list dates and length of listing, and then have your listing agreement ready to sign if you agree on all elements of the listing agreement contract. Okay. So all of these things should be spoken about if you're getting to that level and you're ready to rock and roll. Okay. You do it. If you do not agree to terms on the appointment, you sure to ask when is the best time to call to follow up with the client, to be so that you can sign a listing agreement in the near future. Okay, so once again, always ask. The one right before that is make sure you ask for it, and if you don't get it, okay, when can I call you back to do what we need to do? Okay. Because many times they are, oh, we're having 2 more appointments, whatever the case may be, and then we're going to make a decision. Okay. But find out. All right. Now, after the client signs the listing, go back to the office/home and start inputting into the MLS as a draft the actual listing for the MLS. Okay, so you can always put it in as a draft. That's what it is prior to going to an actual listing. Because those of you that have listed before, it'll say it'll assign you a number the moment you hit the button. But before that, say, hey, you're ready to go. All you got to do is let it fly, and then it goes. Okay. Arrange for the actual photos to be taken if you're not the photographer for the property. Make sure you line up your list. Remember, you have 48 hours. If you don't put a date on the bottom of that listing, because you can't put a date on there, and then hold yourself to it. So keep that in mind. You have 48 hours as per MRED to list the property. Meaning, if there's no dates on there, it means today. Well, it means the day that I signed it. So if you put it in there yesterday, and I signed it yesterday, now you've got 48 hours to get that into the MLS. If you don't, you're in violation. Okay? The way around that, let's say your photos are not ready or whatever, the photos won't be ready. Today's Thursday, the photos won't be ready until Saturday. You can put a date on the very bottom of that listing sheet. It says, want to be listed at such date. Put the date. That's your safety. That's your safety. Because then, it's 2 days after, you got 48 hours after that date to do that. Okay? So that's what you want to do to save yourself the aggravation of, I blew it. The pictures aren't ready. This isn't ready. I'm not ready. 48 hours have gone and passed. Now you got to relist again. Okay? Arrange for the sign to be put up at the home, or put the sign up yourself if that is, if that is the method. Okay, so we have our Oakley signs. You can have an automatic sign put up by them, or you can have your own signs. You put it up. I happen to have my own sign. Input the listing until it reads exactly the way you want it to look, with all blanks filled in within the MLS. Okay, you can always change your listing. Don't worry. You can go in and input, re-input information anytime you want. Okay, so if you don't be afraid if something's wrong, just go in and change it. I change it 15, 20 times. Often. Very often when I reread it, I happen to see it, I don't like the way I said that in terms of the verbiage, or something is wrong, I put hardwood instead of, porcelain tile or whatever. I'll go in and change it. Don't do it. Make sure you get it right, okay? Even if it went out there for 24 hours wrong, change it right away. Get it back so, you probably didn't get it off yet, so you're okay. Coordinate that listing date and photos to match up, and then let the listing rip. Okay, basically. Okay. Next, keep in touch with your client. Okay, now when this all happens, what people want to know, okay, with each and every showing or once per week, you should circle back and communicate with your client via email, phone, text, to let them know what is happening concerning the listing. Okay, everybody wants to know, what are you doing? What are you doing for me? Okay, if they don't see anything, and this can go 2 ways. They don't live there, because now they don't know anything. Okay, so they want to know what's going on. That you're doing something other than putting it in the MLS and just waiting for things to happen. Okay, now if they live there, they're a little bit more on it. They know probably what you should be telling them when the showings are and things like that, and getting feedback and all that stuff. You should have received data on each appointment from the showing agent as to what they and their clients thought about the home. Report this information to the client. Now, set up a schedule. This could be done even prior to this point. You should have said this maybe in the presentation. I will report back to you at least once a week, telling you how many showings we've had, what they stated, what they thought, was it a fair price, stuff like that. Okay. Communication is the key throughout this process. Keep in touch with your client, even if there's no showings to speak of, so even if nothing happened, a full week went by, you now know it's overpriced because a week went by and nothing happened. Okay, that means you're overpriced. Period. End of story. That's the end of it. We don't need to discuss anything more. You're overpriced. Okay. Let them know that. They should know that. Say, hey, 7 days have gone by now since we originally listed. I got 2 inquiries. You could always look it up and find out, but nobody came and saw the property. Which Mr. Seller and Mrs. Seller tell us one thing. I think we're overpriced. We are overpriced because when a listing makes a splash in the marketplace, those first 10 days are everything. First 10 to 14 days are everything. That's when all your activity should and will happen, and you should get an offer. If you do not, there's only one reason. You're overpriced. There's no other reason. It's that simple. For that particular marketplace, you're overpriced. Okay? Keep in touch with your client even if there's nothing to speak of. Continue to explain to them that the property may be overpriced and show them data supporting this. Don't just talk to them. Show them. I never tell them. I tell them as I'm showing them. Here are the ones that have sold recently. Look where they are. 275, 280, 260, 268. We're at 292. It's a little high. We need to probably be down to this number. You hope you handle this at the actual listing presentation, but if 7 to 10, 14 days go by and nothing's happening, you got to reevaluate. And then you should probably, it's not so much the closes anymore, because the closes are no longer a factor unless there's new ones that are closed. It is now the other listings that are surrounding you. Have they lowered their price? What's going on? Well, we've got to keep apprised of what's happening and then keep them informed so everybody knows. Continue to explain to them that the property may be overpriced and show them data supporting this. Always show your client data and not simply tell them. Email them all the data or show them live and in person. Okay? So, once again, as I already stated, it's okay to talk to people, but give them the backup. You know what I mean? Give them the backup with it. Here is why I think we're a bit overpriced because of this. Look at this, this, and this. These are very much like your house, right? Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Yeah. Well, look where they are. They're $12,000 lower than yours. And in theory, they have an outdated kitchen. We don't. Theirs is even better. We need to be at this number to stimulate some action. Okay? I just had one of our agents who has a property down the street on Damon. He very high-end thing that he built it himself. And he asked me to come by, I did last week. And so I gave him what I thought, which was, of course, he wasn't getting a whole lot of activity. And so I said, well, here's your 2 competitors. And they were about almost 100 grand lower, I think, 70, 80 grand, whatever, way up there, $1 million. So he lowered it right away. That's just the reality. You've got to get with the competition. If your intention is to sell now and move on, that's what you have to do. Dealing with the offer. When you receive an offer, which is going to happen, go over all the details of the contract with the seller over the phone or live. The main issues are closing date, earnest money, loan amount, and obviously sale price. Okay, these are all factors because you all agree when you want to get out of there, so that's the closing date. Remember, it's not the buyer writes the contract, the buying agent writes the contract. Doesn't mean you have to say yes to everything. It's a negotiation. Okay, so you can change closing date, the amount of earnest money. Okay, if people are putting down, I just saw one today. We just got in. It's $1,000, and then it's going to be raised to another $9 grand to make it a total of $10,000. I highly suggest that either side. In this case, we're representing the seller. The buyer has nothing to lose after AI. I'm big on this. So the initial $1,000, perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. You get the contract rolling, $1,000, $2,000, light amount, that's okay. But after AI, during the inspection period, there is no reason from either end, buyer or seller, why, if they're putting down 20%, let's say, on a $300,000 property, they're putting down 60 grand, and there's only 3,000 total in earnest money, what's the problem here? How about show me the money? Give me 10. After the AI period, there's no reason why they can't move that up to that type of number. To show you what it does for the seller, little security, you feel better. Buyer, sometimes they feel uncomfortable, but there's nothing to be uncomfortable about on either side, mainly because you get your money back if you can't get the financing, because at that point, the only thing you're waiting for is financing. If you don't think you're going to get the financing as the buyer, well, you don't belong in this transaction at all, and you're going to get your money back anyway. So there's no risk, for either party, obviously not the seller. If you're going to accept this offer, then proceed to call the loan officer. The first thing that you're going to do, if this is a consideration, as the agent, you should be calling that loan officer and introducing yourself and saying, ensure that the buyer can get this loan and that you want to be apprised of all activity regarding this loan. Okay? So they are more than happy to do that for you. Okay? So make that call. The only thing that matters on a deal is will they get the money. If they can't get the money, your deal's not closing. Okay? So the highest priority in a real estate transaction is this phone call to the lender, saying, hey, Mr. Lender, I see I have a letter here, because that's part of the offer, stating that, that they can afford, a $255,000 mortgage, blah, 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 at X rate, this and that. What do you think? Everything looked really good? Oh, yeah. The buyer, the husband is, they'll tell you. They're usually very friendly, and they're more than willing to say. Are they going to say, ooh, I don't think they're going to get this? I doubt that. But you could sense in their tone that this isn't going to be an easy one. Okay? Because they'll usually share that too. This is going to be tough, but yeah, we're going to get this through. Okay? But you need to make that call. If you have multiple offers, present each and go over the nuances of each contract and indicate why one might be better than another. Simply present them and allow the seller to decide which one is the best for them. You may give your opinion, but as ultimately, it's their decision. Okay? So, whether cash is better. We had one recently that I knew the appraisal, actually because I did the appraisal for the seller, before they listed it, was going to be extremely difficult. So a cash offer would be wonderful, even if it was lower than one with a loan, because this is going to be a very difficult one to get a loan on. It just was nothing like this property anywhere near it, and it was just going to be difficult. So my recommendation is, if you got a cash offer, run with it and have a good day. That would be my recommendation, because going through the whole process, 30, 40 days, and waiting for the appraisal and everything else to go through, and then it falling apart, you just wait time for a day. Okay? And what happened the first time around, but whatever. If you're going to accept this offer, okay. If you have multiple offers, like I said, simply present them, allow the seller to decide. Make sure that you go over every bit of the contract, including appliances like we talked about, and any other extras included in the contract. Be careful. Be careful what they're asking for is exactly what's being said on the MLS, and make sure that contract matches that, because, like I said, you could be buying things and giving things that you didn't anticipate. There goes part of your commission. Accepting an offer. Once an offer has been accepted, you then proceed to get everything into Dotloop and share with the attorney, and if utilizing River's title, myself, you give it to me. I will send you out documents that need to be filled out when considering utilizing our title company. It's usually just 2 disclosures, one that says, River's title, and we also represent Gale, Gale Realty, whatever. And then you're off and running, okay? You have it once you accept the offer, okay? And the process from there, we'll talk about it, okay? Ensure that all the docs are signed on the contract, and that all appropriate disclosures are appropriately signed as well. Now, I would highly suggest that once you get it in, Dotloop, submit it for review so you can can see right away what's missing, what's not missing. Rob will get right back to you and say, hey, there's no signature on line 87. There's no initials on the disclosure. There's no this. Oftentimes, things are missing. Okay? These need to be addressed. You now have 30 to 40 days to do this. Get it done. Get it done. It's extremely more difficult to have happen post-closing. Okay? A lot of times, we don't get this document, the contract, until I say do it a week before, but might as well do it right away. Why not? Submit for review, make sure, try to get everything together, but Rob will come back right back to you via dot loop and tell you, I need this, 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 and this. Now you know what you have to chase. Okay? Shouldn't be that difficult. 30, 40 days before, say, hey, Mr. Mr. Right, please, you forgot to initial this. If it's on your end, the selling end, well, that should be easy. Talk to your client, say, I need this, this, and this. Okay? On the buying end, a little bit more difficult, but it shouldn't be an issue. Everybody's willing to do everything now. There's no, everybody wants to make a deal. So they need to sign the proper things. Okay? And get it done. This is the time to get it done properly. Okay? The attorney review inspection period. So now at this point, the buyer broker will call you and set up an appointment to have the inspection done. Because now the attorneys have been addressed and they all have it. When they call you for the inspection, which will normally be within the 5-day period after the contract is accepted. They have 5 business days now to do what they got to do. Okay? So they do. And you'll get a call as the listing agent. Hey, the inspector's coming Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Okay? Accommodate. Normally, the buyer agent is the one that will be there. One of the agents has to be there. Why the buyer agent wouldn't be there, I don't know. I can't think of a good excuse. Okay? That is your time, as we talked about in the other class, to bind with your client and find out everything about the house. Okay? That's pertinent and important. Okay? So normally it's just listing agent, buying agents coming in. You're gone. Tell your sellers to get out of the house for 2 to 4 hours. Okay? That's what's going to happen. Okay? An agent must be there for the entire inspection. One of you. Okay? When the buyer broker attorney sent over the demands for the inspection, then you and your client should go over it and discuss what is reasonable and what is not. Okay? It is my contention that this should be via the broker. Okay? To start, not attorneys. Okay? They should, you should. I call right away after the inspection, like immediately, and say, hey, were there any issues? They already know. And I do the same if I'm on the other side of this. I go, well, it's not written up yet, but I'm going to tell you, this, and that were problems. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be writing this up that way. I don't have dollar amounts, I can't tell you what it is, but once again, you being there is everything. You have the knowledge. You know what the issues are, okay? And, if it's something that they may not ask for, then don't mention it. But if it's something they're asking for, there's nothing wrong with saying that, okay? Because transparency and being there for it is better than the blind side. Oh, by the way, we're asking for $26,000, and it's this, and it's a laundry list, longer than the Torah. Come on. That is not a net. I've said this a million times in our different seminars. Surprises are not good. There is no good surprise other than that, champagne or beer in the refrigerator after the closing you happen to find in there because they left it for you. Other than that, it's not good. So prepare them for what's may happen. It's much more easily accepted when they then see it. They're like, oh, he said this right after the inspection. That this may be coming like this. Okay? So it's not a surprise. Okay? Determine what you will accept with your client and have your client call your attorney and tell them what you're willing to give or not via the inspection. Okay? So now you've looked it over, you've got this, you've got the inspection issues or the issues that they talked about, and you're looking at this, and you're going to, and you say, I wouldn't do that, or, you need to have some input in this, and do whatever you're gonna do, get it to the attorney, okay, and then from there, they ask you, this is how it goes, and it's a second negotiation, if you will, okay? Doesn't have to be on every deal, but this is between, ultimately between buyer and seller, but the attorneys are involved, and the brokers should know what's going on, just to be apprised of what's happening. Okay? Once this period is over and both parties have agreed on the terms, the new terms, if you will, so let's say it was a $5,000 ask, we settled on 35, whatever it was, okay. Now, AI is over, and that's when that additional earnest money, if there is going to be anything added, should be paid. Okay, that's always my opinion on a typical contract. And it makes buyer and seller feel equal. Very, very good. And once this period is over, both parties have agreed on the terms, you now have a real estate deal in place. Okay, and basically 2/3 of your deal is over because the only leg left now is financing. Okay, you've done the other stuff. You're just waiting for appraisal and the actual financing, them to accept the loan, process one way out. So during this post-AI period and prior to closing, stay in touch with your seller and apprise them of what is happening and what will happen prior to closing. You still, it's kind of a dead zone here, but keep them informed of what can we expect, what's happening here. At some point soon, you'll receive a call from the appraiser to do the appraisal on the property. Comply with his or her wishes and meet the appraiser and supply comparables, plat of survey, a sketch if you have one. Would have been a good idea in the beginning to make a floor plan. That's why I encourage floor plans, because this is what you give it to them. And any other pertinent information on the property that can help them with valuation. Okay, those are the things that I mentioned there. Definitely help. And meet them, give them, tell them, hey, I have this, can I give this to you? Sure. And supply that whole little package for it, which I think we're doing next week or the week after, as far as the class here. After the appraiser is done, wait about 5 business days and email the lender to ensure that the appraisal appraised out. Appraised out means it gave the value, at least the value. Okay? If it did and all is good, and your deal will close. If it did not, then there'd be some issues to contend with. Okay, so this is what once again, this also boils down to your initial call to that lender. Real good lenders, I get an email update that said, hey, the appraiser's coming out tomorrow, and even before the call from the appraiser. It's like, and then I'll get the appraisal is done, we got the value, whatever. I've seen that from lenders. I love that. A lot of them are starting to do that now. Just so you don't even have to call them. They're just all over it. It's a beautiful thing. Preparing for the closing. Once the attorneys and buyer and seller have agreed to a closing date and time, it's probably a good practice to have the seller call the attorney and pre-sign all the docs prior to closing. Okay, that's typically how it goes these days. Sellers don't generally attend closings. It's unusual. There's no reason for a seller to be there any longer. There just really isn't. Some of them are old-fashioned and want to be there. That's okay. It's not against the law, anything like that. There's just not a lot of reasons. There's probably more things that could possibly go wrong when the sellers are there, because they get a little weird. I don't know. But most of the time, attorneys and everybody else, and I can see the reasons, they pre-sign all the docs, and at the closing, the attorney generally has POA, power of attorney, to do some kind of signing that may be necessary there, but they've already got the price and everything else. It's already, papers are already drawn up and everything's done. So the seller doesn't have to do much. It's more about the buyer at the closing. The buyer has to sign, infinity amount of documents for mortgage, and all that kind of stuff. Seller, minimal. Okay, that's why it's not that necessary for the seller to be there. Okay. Coordinate with the buying broker the final walkthrough, time and date. Okay, most good buying agents will call you and say, hey, I want a final walkthrough, from my client. When is this, when can we do this? They just call and set it up. Normally, those are done, I like to do mine if I'm on the buy side the night before, 6, 7 o'clock the night before, or the morning of, depending on when the closing. Okay? I'll do it 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning if we're closing at 11, whatever. So give yourself some time to get to the point where you need to go, which is closing, and there. So coordinate that to walk through. Ensure that your seller has all of their belongings out of the home prior to the walkthrough. Okay, so once again, that's why from the buying side, I prefer to have that all the way to the very end. You want to see that house what it looks like, not with their stuff still in it. Because if there's stuff still in it, there's a lot of wall furniture holes that are not showing and will only show, let's say they moved, an hour before you take possession. And then all of a sudden you see all ripped, shredded, stuff and all the walls busted up because they were moving furniture like crazy men and women. So it's better that way. Closing day. It is common, like I said, for the seller not to attend the closing, and probably a good idea in most cases. It is up to you on whether or not you want to go to the closing. I recommend that you do go, okay? But not necessarily at the beginning, but near the end to ensure that all is well, and pick up the check and closing statement, which you will need to get paid for your items, okay? And this is from the seller side, remember. The reason being, once again, it's more about the buyer than the close. Okay, the seller, your client's not even there. Okay, so not as instrumental on your side for you to be there. I mean, you're about your client. The client's not there. You don't have to be there either. Okay, at this point, this is the one time that I will say the attorney, let them take over. That's fine. Now, he or she, this is their job. This is what they're supposed to be there for. Okay, your services are not completely over, but for the most part, you've pretty much done your job. So I would go, like I said, at some point in the middle or thereafter. I don't want to say mainly just to pick up your check and the HUD statement, but when you don't go for that, please give instructions to get it somewhere. The title company will do whatever you want. Okay. If it's Rivers, I arrange with Jay and those guys. They drop off stuff here all the time. Hey, bring my check. I meet them on Saturdays to work with the checks. Whatever it is, you can do whatever you want, especially with Rivers. We'll figure it out. It's just kale, it's a kale check. But most of those times, those guys, like Adrian was just here a little while ago, they're here all the time, anytime we want them here. Okay? So, basically, you want that kale check here, it'll be here the next day. Just tell me. Okay? We'll get the kale, and if it's Rivers title, they're both coming here at that point. You don't really have to do anything. On the seller side, because we'll make that arrangement, assuming it's through Rivers title. Okay? On the other, if it's nothing to do with Rivers or anything else, make arrangements. Okay? They're not going to be as accommodating as we are, because it's all internal, but they'll do what they have to do, and they'll do what you say. Pretty much, they'll send it, they'll hold it, whatever. But mind you, they will hold it. If you don't tell them anything, I've seen agents just not do anything, and that thing's been sitting there for 3 weeks. They don't need the money. Another reason to attend a closing is actually to hand over the keys to the new buyers. Okay, so arrangements could have been made if there was a key box. You could have certainly arranged with the buyer agent to pick up those keys. Buyer agent should never give keys until said deal is closed, officially closed. But it's okay. Agent to agent, that's okay. You're entrusting another agent to do his or her job, which is his or her job. I mean, you don't just go give the keys out until it's time. Okay? Post-closing. You can send a nice closing gift if you like, and 5 to 10% is appropriate. Once again, on a sale, as a selling side, you're not necessarily, on the buy side, you meet your client there because your client's there. Okay? On the selling side, he or she is typically not there. Okay, and you're already done in that sense, so you'll have to send it to them. Therefore, you're going to have to know their forwarding address, right? They obviously just moved, or unless it's an investment property, but whatever. Make sure you know where they're going. Maybe you already helped them do that. Put the closing statement and the check in the loop, in that loop. Okay, so the only two things that we require upon closing, you should have already got the contract, all that other stuff should have already been in there. Rob will talk, I've already told you how to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed and everything signed and initialed as appropriate. So that portion should be finished. The only thing left is a copy of the Kale check and or receipt if you went to Chase. Okay, let's say you pick up both of these items, the closing statement and the check. You can go to any Chase and just deposit the check. Make sure that you get, it's on Kale training, where to deposit it, or what the account number is. Take the slip, the receipt, make a copy of it, submit for review with the closing statement also downloaded into Dotloop, and just say, hey, submit for review, just closed. We now see the receipt from Chase, we see the closing statement, you will get paid later that day. Okay, it'll probably hit your account the following day, but you will get paid immediately. We pay out very quickly. That's under the assumption of the guys that you did everything prior to everything signed, everything was back. So a very quick pay, and things get done around here in a fast fashion, not everything's done right. And that is handling the plan from A to Z sellers. Question?